Have you ever finished a meal and just wondered how it actually becomes you? How does it power you? Well, today, we're going to go on an incredible journey deep inside your body to see the amazing chemical reactions that turn your food into fuel. So, let's dive in.
Seriously, think about that sandwich you had for lunch. How does a piece of bread, some meat, some cheese, how does that stuff transform into the energy that's letting you think right now or letting your heart beat? It really feels like magic, doesn't it? But it's not. It's this incredibly elegant process called chemical digestion, and we're about to break down exactly how it works.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the main goal of digestion, its mission. Then, we'll open up the body's molecular toolkit to see what it uses. After that, we'll actually follow a meal on its journey as it gets broken down. And finally, we'll see how all that good stuff gets into your system.
Okay, let's start with the big picture. When you eat, your body doesn't see a hamburger. It sees a massive jumble of raw materials that are way, way too big to use. So, its first mission, its incredible mission, is to deconstruct all of it into tiny, usable pieces.
And this right here, this is the absolute core of what we're talking about. Chemical digestion is all about turning large, insoluble molecules, stuff your body just can't work with, into tiny, soluble molecules that it can actually absorb. It's kind of like finding a locked treasure chest versus having a big pile of gold coins you can spend right away. We want the coins. I want you to think of this image as our map for the whole journey. It lays out the 3 separate pathways your body uses to break down the big 3: fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. We're going to keep coming back to this map as we follow each one from start to finish. So, how does the body actually pull off this amazing deconstruction job? Well, it doesn't use hammers and saws. It uses a highly specialized chemical toolkit. Let's meet the machinery. The real stars of the show are things called enzymes. You can think of them as tiny biological scissors, and each pair of scissors is designed to cut only one specific type of molecule. So you've got amylase for carbs, protease for proteins, and lipase for fats. And what's really fascinating is that they're often made in one place, like your pancreas, but do their jobs somewhere completely different, like your small intestine. But hey, even the best scissors need a little help. Enzymes don't work alone. For example, hydrochloric acid in your stomach makes everything super acidic, which creates the perfect playground for one particular protein-cutting enzyme. And then you have bile. Bile is amazing. It acts just like dish soap on a greasy pan. It physically smashes big blobs of fat into tiny little droplets so that the lipase enzyme can finally get in there and do its chemical cutting. And this is where the design of the human body is just, well, brilliant. Your stomach is like this intensely acidic bath with a pH of around 1.5. It's perfect for an enzyme called pepsin. But then, just a few inches down the road in the small intestine, the environment becomes almost completely neutral. This massive pH change basically acts like an on-off switch. It shuts pepsin down and activates a whole new team of enzymes that love the neutral conditions. It's incredible.
All right, so we've met the tools. We've seen the molecular scissors and their helpers. Now, let's go back to our map and watch them in action, taking a meal apart, piece by tiny piece.
Our first stop on this journey: carbohydrates. We're talking about the starches you find in foods like bread, rice, or potatoes. Your body's goal here is to turn these long, complex chains into simple sugars for a quick burst of energy. Okay, looking at our map, let's follow the path on the far right. You can see the goal right there: to take that big, complicated starch molecule at the top and snip it all the way down into those simple little glucose molecules at the bottom. And check this out. It happens in 2 main steps. First, an enzyme in your saliva called amylase starts working the second the food hits your mouth. It chops those long starch chains into a smaller sugar called maltose. Then, later in the small intestine, a second enzyme called maltase comes in for the final snip, breaking maltose into glucose, the perfect, ready-to-use fuel for pretty much all of your cells. Okay, carbs are taken care of. Now for the proteins, the stuff you get from fish, chicken, eggs, or beans. These are the literal building blocks your body uses to repair and build itself. Let's head back to our map and look at that middle column. See how a protein is like a long, folded-up string of beads? Well, the mission here is to completely dismantle that string and break it up into all the individual beads. Those beads are called amino acids. And just like with carbs, it's a tag-team effort. The first enzyme, pepsin, gets its chance in that super acidic stomach. It starts chopping up the long protein chains.
Then, when the food moves into the much calmer small intestine, a different enzyme, trypsin, takes over to finish the job, leaving nothing but pure, usable amino acids. All right, we have one big macronutrient left to tackle: fats. You get these from things like butter, oil, and avocados. These are your body's way of storing a lot of energy in a very small package.
So for our final trip on the map, let's look at the path on the left. The plan here is to take those big, greasy fat globules that don't mix with water and break them down into their two smaller parts, fatty acids and glycerol.
Now, fat digestion is really unique because it starts with a physical step, not a chemical one. Remember bile? It comes in and physically smashes the fat into tiny droplets. This gives the fat-cutting enzyme, lipase, way more surface area to work on. Only then can lipase get in there and chemically snip the fat molecules apart into fatty acids and glycerol.
And with that, the deconstruction is complete. We did it. We've turned a complex meal into a simple soup of tiny soluble molecules. But the job's not quite done. Now we've got to get all that good fuel out of the digestive system and into the rest of the body where it's needed. This right here is the finish line. All those tiny molecules we just worked so hard to create, the glucose from carbs, the amino acids from proteins, and the fatty acids and glycerol from fats, they are all finally small enough to pass right through the walls of the small intestine and into your bloodstream. And of course, your body also grabs essential water, vitamins, and minerals along the way. Mission accomplished.
So let's think about that. Everything you ate has been completely transformed and delivered into your bloodstream. The fuel, the glucose, amino acids, and fats, is now circulating all over your body, ready for action. Which brings up a pretty fascinating question, doesn't it? What happens now? How do those little molecules become muscle, or a thought, or just the energy to get up and walk across the room? Well, that's a whole other incredible journey.